Hey guys, APOC here, and today we are going to be talking about the new balance changes that just came out today, and it looks like they're going to be going into effect tomorrow. So, as you guys know, Night Witch was absolutely everywhere. She was with Three Musketeers, with P.E.K.K.A., with Battle Ram, with Graveyard. It was just simply overpowered. So, Supercell really needed to nerf her, and they basically nerfed everything about her. And I expect her popularity to plummet, not only in grand challenges, but also in ladder. Honestly, I'm not too sure she's going to be in the meta going forward. So let's talk about some of the other cards real quick. So Mini P.E.K.K.A. received a buff. There's some pretty good changes with him. So his damage increase is, I think, focused more on the Three Musketeer interactions. So a couple of these next topics I'm going to talk about are really going to be focused on Three Musketeers. So Mini P.E.K.K.A. now will kill Musketeers, Electro Wizard, and regular Wizard all in one shot. Really, nobody else did that before besides the big P.E.K.K.A. So that's a big change to how that card's interactions. Really increasing his time to kill because his swing speed was very low. So next, there's the Dark Prince, and Dark Prince is now going to two-shot Three Musketeers. If you land with a charge strike, as well as the next hit, that's going to take out the Musketeers as well for another 4-cost option. So that's really two different ways that you could kind of take out Three Musketeers for only 4 elixir. So that's a big deal. I don't know if he's going to see a ton of play. I have a feeling that Mini P.E.K.K.A. will see a bit more play than it, but we'll see. I think that he might wind up being able to find home. The AoE damage is pretty nice, as well as there's not as much Goblin Gang or skeletons to just get in his way and block his charge strike. So I think that he may be able to find some ways to make it back into the meta. So next, Battle Ram is going to charge slower. And it's also going to deploy the Barbarians just a fraction of a second slower. So I do think that does matter, mostly because of the charge speed. Because it's going to take longer for his initial charge, but when you log or Ice Spirit it, it's going to take even longer to get back in. So if he's not able to charge the first time, say the first charge takes 3 seconds, then now it's going to take 4. And now if you log it, it's going to take another 4, which is really an extra 2 seconds that it would have taken to get to the tower. And as we all know, that's a huge amount in this game. That's enough to get extra elixir for our bigger defense. And now there's also the heal nerf. Heal is only a minor nerf in my opinion. About half a second, taking off just a little bit of the heat on, a little bit of the heal on it. It will also affect Musketeers and Minion Horde as well. So that's kind of like 4 indirect nerfs. So Mini P.E.K.K.A., Dark Prince, Battle Ram, and Heal. So I do think that all of those combined, we're going to see quite a bit less of Three Musketeers. So now let's talk about the siege decks, Mortar and Expo. So in the top 200, there was only 2 Mortar decks and 3 Expo decks. So they've been underrepresented as win conditions for quite some time. Now I do think a lot of this had to do with Night Witch, because she was just so difficult to counter effectively for them. Even if you drop something like a Mega Minion or Minions, it would take quite some time to kill her, and then the bats, and she would generally deal a good amount of damage to your Expo or Mortar, making it a lot harder. So I do think that the Night Witch nerf is an enormous buff to Siege as it is, but there's been a lot of balance changes to these Siege cards already. They were 3 seconds, and they were 5 seconds, now they're 4, and now they're going to 3.5, and I think that might be the right spot for them to get them as a main part of the meta again. Though they do influence the meta into a more defensive meta because they are buildings themselves, and sometimes they play buildings on top of that, such as Inferno Tower or even Furnace. So I do think that we will see a bit of rise of Siege into the meta again. So besides Graveyard receiving a direct nerf, it's going to have 2 less skeletons, also received a couple indirect nerfs. Let's just start with the direct nerf, though. So there's going to be 2 less skeletons, which may not sound like much, but is actually a huge, huge deal. Because many times the skeletons are, as they take time to build up, it only takes 2 or 3 skeletons to deal a lot of damage to the tower. And if you're losing those skeletons, it could wind up costing you several hundred damage on the tower and on each attack. So I do think that this nerf is going to be very, very large, and especially at the top of the ladder where people were pretty proficient at graveyard defenses and pretty used to it. It may become even harder to get a lot of value out of your graveyard. So with that said, Night Witch was in a huge percentage of graveyard decks as well. So with Night Witch being in such a big percentage of graveyard decks because of the bats, made it more difficult to defend graveyard, plus the bats between the air and the ground, as well as just making more targets that the tower had to lock onto. I do think that there's going to be I do think that there will be a good amount less graveyard, but graveyard may return to a more traditional form of splash yard in the format. With Bowler, Baby Dragon, and Tornado. I wouldn't count out that deck of coming back, but I don't think that it'll be everywhere like all these graveyard cycles, as you've probably seen on my channel, as well as some of the others. So, also, graveyard received another indirect nerf in the form of with Ice Wizard. So, Ice Wizard is going to be a much better counter versus Graveyard now that he's able to one-shot the skeletons as well as the bats. And that's a big nerf because, Ice Wizard is AoE. So he's going to take down multiple skeletons at a time often. So that's a direct nerf and 2 indirect nerfs to Graveyard because of the Night Witch nerf, because it was in so many of the Graveyard decks. So speaking of Ice Wizard, I do think that Ice Wizard's popularity is going to absolutely surge. I think it's going to be a primary defensive option once again. The ability to one-shot skeletons, as well as he's going to be able to, I think, 3-shot minions, which is another very nice bonus, as there's not a lot of answers to killing minions quickly besides Princess, Baby Dragon, and Executioner, besides the spells. So this does give another option to take down both minions and minion hordes pretty quickly. So that's another nice bonus. Sorry, gotta get another replay started. So where do I think the meta is going from here? So I think that the meta is going to become more defensive. Bridge Spam and Night Witch and Graveyard, they were all very offensive strategies, so there was a lot of nerf to defense without nerfs to new win conditions. So first, I think that we're going to see a lot more Inferno Tower, Ice Wizard, and Mini P.E.K.K.A. Now obviously Ice Wizard and Mini P.E.K.K.A. received buffs, but let's talk about Inferno Tower for a second. Night Witch was very, very good versus Inferno Tower, first because the bats would often block a hit of the Inferno Tower, and it's got a slow recharge rate, making it take a long time to get to the next target. Also, Battle Ram was a good counter to Inferno Tower, because it would hit the tower, take away a chunk of damage, and then you'd still be left with barbarians that would kill the tower. So I do think that there will be less Battle Ram because of that nerf, and that will go back to increasing the Inferno Tower, and that will be a nice buff to the minor archetypes. One card I think that we will see a lot less of is Big P.E.K.K.A. And I think we'll see a lot less of Big P.E.K.K.A. mostly because Mini P.E.K.K.A. is going to infringe on their spot. And I say this because there wasn't a lot of options for one-shotting Musketeer, E-Wiz, and Wizard before, but now Mini P.E.K.K.A. will do that at 3 cost less. That's a lot of elixir saving, as well as he's a lot faster for counterattacks, either with Hog or with Miner on a counterattack can be pretty strong, or even a Giant out in front afterwards. And with less Battle Rams and 3 Musketeer, I think that it would be harder to invest all 7 into Big P.E.K.K.A. Another card I do see that will see a bit of a rise will be Electro Wizard, mostly because I think there was just so many cards that Night Witch replaced that there will be a big hole for some of these 4-cost cards to get back in the meta. I know that that Electro Wizard was played quite a bit before, but I do think that we're going to see an increase of that, even with Ice Wizard still seeing an increase. I don't necessarily know they'll go in the same deck. I don't think they actually will, because there's too much spell vulnerability to having both in the same deck. But I do think that both will find a home. So I also do think that Knight will get played more as a primary melee defense, which is big. And another card I do think that we'll see more of is I think we'll see more Lava Hound. So Lava Hound had this big problem in that is that you would drop your Lava Hound in the back, then they would drop a Night Witch in the back, and it'd start building up all these bats. And while it was building up all these bats, it was going to, you'd have to deal with the Night Witch then on offense. So they'd drop either a miner or a giant in front of their Night Witch, and the bats would be left with all behind on your Lava Hound and your balloon, while you still have to deal with that giant and Night Witch coming in on offense. And that was like, the Night Witch was basically pulling offense and defensive duty for only 4 elixirs. So it was a huge problem for Night Witch and for Lava Hound users. So I do think that we're going to see a lot more Lava Loon as well. I think that'll be coming back to the meta. I just think that there was just too much for you to do, because even if you lightninged the Night Witch, you were going to be left with those bats that still did a very good job against your Lava Hound. So with that said, I do think that I don't think that we're going to see heal as much. Not because it's bad. I just do think that 3 Musketeers will wind up being played less. So just in turn, that's the support card for it. I don't know that we'll see that much anymore. I do think that we are going to see a lot more Tornado Executioner decks, such as Hog X NATO, as I do think that archetype was pretty dominant before Night Witch came in. I know Tornado received the nerf previously, but with Night Witch falling out of favor, we are going to need more defensive options, and that may lead to more Executioners. And with more Executioners, obviously that leads to more Tornadoes. As well as Tornado will be a very good option if there's more Hog Riders, as we know, Tornado can counter Hog very effectively. So if there's more Hog, and it's also another good counter to Lava Hound. So I do think that there's an enormous amount of chain reactions that's going to be happening from all these balance changes. So cards that we'll see more of, we'll see more Furnace, we'll see more Knight, we'll see more Hog, Miner, Inferno Tower. I do think we'll see less Big P.E.K.K.A, Battle Ram as well. I think that Night Witch is basically going to be done. I know it's a bit sad to see. Maybe, I hope you guys were able to get a lot of use out of it. If you didn't, I wouldn't be surprised if it winds up getting buffed again. Honestly, I think that this is going to be a bit of an over nerf, kind of like they did to Executioner a while back. I don't know that they want her to have all this DPS, but I wouldn't be surprised if they increase her health next time. Make her a little bit more resilient to the spells, as that's what she was good at, but while lowering her DPS, but this way allowing her to stay on the field a little bit longer. So let me know what you guys think about these changes in the comments, and if you liked this video, if you like this analysis. So I hope that I'll be able to get you some new Grand Challenge decks, hopefully as soon as tomorrow. I do know that there's that Legendary Challenge tomorrow, and then there's the huge 20-win challenge next week. So hopefully we'll get some new decks for you to try out before that. So guys, thank you guys once again for tuning in, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.